Welcome back, everyone, to the Young Entrepreneurs Podcast. This is the second official episode, and today I have my very first guest. His name is Paxson Berkey, and he owns his own landscaping business that goes by the name of Higher Purpose Landscape. Thank you, Paxson, for being here. I really appreciate you being my very first guest here today, man.
Dude, of course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Okay, so let's get things started right away because I try to keep these podcasts very short. So I wanted to ask you, man, what inspired you to start your business?
That's a great question. My grandfather was a hyper entrepreneur. He failed his entire first 40 years of his life, and whenever he ran out of all the money, he had a bookstore that he was gifted from his father. He ran out of money, and he was like, "Man, what am I going to do? I'm broke." And so he went out. He was like, "I think real estate is a good world for me to get involved into." And so he paved his own path from the ground up.
Okay.
Started a real estate firm, then went from zero to 200 properties in his 20-ish years of
In
doing
20
it.
years?
In 20 years.
Oh,
It's
geez.
crazy.
I know.
Dedicated hustler, super smart, and just strategized that world and got really good at that, that specific career. And he killed it. And so when I was growing up, he'd always whisper in my ear, just work for yourself, don't work for somebody, be your own boss, and make sure you do something that you don't have to go to work and you can make money.
Speaking the truth.
So he was big on passive income, but yeah, that's the inspiration.
And then from there, okay, because you do landscaping, what inspired the name Higher Purpose?
Great question. So I believe that every human is broken and born sinful, and I am in desperate need of a savior. I think everyone is. And
100%.
I, in high school, was an alcoholic and really struggled with just pursuing things of this world that I thought would make me happy.
Mhm.
They didn't, and none of it fulfilled me. And I came to learn that Jesus is the only thing that can fulfill you.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same transition in my life, I had a business called B&B Lawn Care because it was just me and a buddy. And I was super arrogant, and the business was all about me and my name and my
Really?
ego. And after starting a relationship with Jesus, I learned that everything we have has been given to us from him,
Mm-hmm.
and we're here to steward those things for his glory. And so that's the intention behind it. Our business dynamic is set up to where we can positively impact our community and then positively impact the world. And so how we structure our business and charity and giving and different things like that is to influence our community and also to fund different missionaries and different ministries that are out across the world.
Okay. And so when did you find Jesus?
It's a great
Because
question.
a lot of people our age don't believe in Jesus, or
Right.
they're very sinful and they're like, Jesus won't forgive my sins
Right.
at all.
Right.
So when did you find
And that's what I thought, because I grew up in the church and
Uh-huh.
I was an alcoholic, just
Yeah.
running at anything that I thought that would make me happy, and it just never was enough. And it took me being at my lowest to realize oh man, I guess I do need a savior. And I think sometimes people just haven't had a moment where they felt like they needed that. But you'll learn things that this world offers you can't fulfill you. A person can't fulfill you. Drugs, sex, alcohol, whatever it may be, will not. It won't fix you.
It's all temporary.
Yeah. And Jesus is the only true fix because it's eternal. It's forever. And we're designed to be in relationship with him. And so in high school, probably sophomore year, that's when I was really struggling with being in that crowd and really struggled with alcoholism. And then I was freed from that and taught that when we choose to be in relationship with Jesus, our past and future sins are covered by his blood because he lived the perfect life we couldn't.
Yeah.
And that was because I was I'm too dirty to be, loved by Jesus.
Yeah.
And to learn that he died on the cross for those sins and nailed my sin to that cross, that means I can just walk freely and be dude, I'm my identity is not in me being an alcoholic, it's in that I'm freed, and that's just a thing that I used to struggle with.
Yeah.
So it's a total mind change. But
No, yeah, because I don't quite remember the movie, but it gives the whole story of Jesus when he was at the garden. You know which one I'm referring to?
Yeah.
Do you remember the name?
The movie?
Yes, the movie.
I don't know.
I don't remember the name.
There's a lot of movies,
But that one, it shows everything Jesus went through. But the thing is, it was probably worse. They couldn't even depict it into the movie.
it's probably
They would like, boom, whip him, and the scars would be on his back, blood leaking out. Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
dude, horrifying. Like,
Yeah, and to think that it was all of our sins, right?
right.
Oh my gosh. So you mentioned that you found Jesus
Yeah.
in a the lowest point in your life, would you say?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And so that was in high school, right?
Right.
Really?
And praise God that I had to
Yeah.
go through those trials when I was younger, because
Uh-huh.
a lot of people will go to college and then celebrate and
Mhm.
live in the world.
Mhm.
And I got to go through those hard things and learn in high school.
Uh-huh.
And so I was super blessed to have gone through that earlier to learn and be better prepared for college. Not that I'm perfect now, dude. I'm so broken.
No, yeah.
But
none of us are perfect.
I definitely have a perspective change and am better equipped to tackle
Mhm.
being a successful person,
Mhm. And so right now you're 19, or did you turn
19.
20? You're still
19.
19.
2 months.
2 months?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm excited for that. Hopefully I get invited to the birthday party or something.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
There's no way I'm gonna have a party. Birthdays are just so lame. Like,
Really?
I think so. My family doesn't really celebrate them.
Okay. I mean, hey, everyone's different, right?
Right.
I mean, I don't celebrate mine. It's just more of a let's get some food all together, right? But I did want to ask. There's a lot of young entrepreneurs or young individuals in general,
right,
who don't carry themselves on a high level.
Right.
What do you think what inspired you to begin to learn that?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
And you're asking like what inspired me to like live in this like different identity, or like to be confident, or like what?
Yeah, I would say most people lack confidence.
Right.
So I wanted to ask, how did you become so confident and able to speak so properly? Because nowadays, when you're speaking to someone, they're like,
Great question.
or like when people give speeches, I know you've seen those.
Yes.
When people are giving speeches, they're like, yeah, yeah, and it's like a lot of young people don't have that in general. So how did you learn that skill?
That's a great question. I was super blessed to be in Future Farmers of America in high school, FFA.
FFA, I've never heard about them.
It's like this organization that prepares you for like your future career, but specifically focuses in the ag world. And so for me, one of the teams that I competed on was called Public Relations.
Okay.
And we
Really?
had contests where we would public speak. And we would get like critically judged on how our tonality and our pace and how clear we spoke.
Uh-huh.
And being in a position where I have 4 people that are like 60 and 70 are looking at me like they want to kill me, and they're just writing every little word.
Straight faced.
Oh yeah, that forced me to be like, okay, it forced me to project and speak clearly and make sure that I'm speaking slow enough for people to understand me.
Yeah.
I'm breaking the rules now because you're not supposed to public speak with gum in your mouth, because it can be distracting or cause you to mumble.
Really?
But that's a thing that I got points docked on, because they're
what?
Like, oh, gum minus 10 points or whatever.
I get in a professional standpoint, but come on, right?
I know. So that's the story of like how I learned. I think I've also just been gifted to be around other people that are really good at projecting and public speaking, and so I've been influenced by that.
Yeah. That's great, man. So from what I've seen on your social medias, you're always having fun in different areas. Like, where have you traveled across the world? Because every time I hop on Instagram,
Right.
I see a new picture of you in a new location. And I'm like, is this man ever here in town?
That's a good question. I think one of the blessings and curses of being a business owner is you do have a flexible schedule. I mean, as a business owner, at the beginning stages, you have 70 jobs. Like, you're the bookkeeper, 100%. Marketing, PR, HR, whatever it may be. Like, those are your responsibilities. But you also have the freedom to go to work when you would like. Like, if you want to sleep in every day, you could. It may not be wise, but you could.
Yeah.
And so for me, I've been super blessed to now build a business where I've delegated the responsibilities I have for said business, and then it frees me to focus on a specific niche of the business or to grow a certain area of the business. And I can actually work on the business instead of work for the business. And that was a total change in our like exponential growth. I mean, if I continue to just be a laborer in the field with my guys, our business would just be like a plateau. And then we would eventually die because I'd get burned out, you know. I can't sing a pickaxe the rest of my life.
No, I get you. You had to step up. You had
Right.
to step up. You had to level up, actually, right? So, what would you say has been the biggest sacrifice you've had to make to get to the current level that you are in business?
I think the biggest sacrifice is just the time. Like that sounds so silly, but like time with family, time with loved ones, and I mean, I dropped out of college so I could blow this business up, and that's a sacrifice. It's a total win for me because I'm not blowing money on a degree I won't use.
Yeah.
College is great for people that are specialists, but for somebody that's an entrepreneur, it's not. You don't need it.
No, yeah. 100%.
And so I think the biggest sacrifice is just the social miss out. Like I wake up, I'm working on my business. I'm working when I get home until I fall asleep, and the same thing every single day. And there are no breaks. Like my business needs me, and I have to shut off sometimes when I'm around family. But it's also really hard because you're just like in go mode. How can I improve things? How can I be efficient? And so you have to pull yourself out of that zone. But it, like I said, that sacrificing looks like time, and just like time where you're missing out on things you'd be at. Like because I'm not a student at A&M anymore, I'm totally missing out on
all the quote unquote fun activities.
The fun activities and that kind of thing. So, which thankfully I'm not a part of. But like, part of me is like, oh man, I'd love to go to like dance parties and date parties and stuff like that. But it's not where I'm at, you know.
No, I get you. So, whenever you did drop out from A&M, did you catch any backlash from your parents?
Great question. I wouldn't say necessarily backlash. There was some concern, and there's obviously emotion. Your parents typically want the best for you, and they're like, is this really the best choice for you?
College is the best for you, son.
Right. Right. And so they were like, we are super supportive of whatever you do. We support you going to college. We also support you not. But know this, if your business fails, you got to have some plan Bs because you can't fall back on a degree. And I was like, great, I'll just start another business, you know.
Simple as that.
So no, they were really supportive.
Okay,
but
that's great.
A lot of other people are like, yeah, I don't know about that. They're just like, especially in the College Station Aggie world, they're like, do not do that. That'd be so dumb. But
yeah, it's not like we're here shitting on college the entire time. No, it's like, it's the truth, right? It's the truth. I feel like I found college to be something that you succeed in if you're very niche down to a specific thing. Like, hey, I'm gonna be a doctor, but if I'm gonna get a general business degree, you know, what's the point of that, right? But I mean, I don't want to dive too deep into that because then people are gonna think, man, this whole podcast is about shitting on college and university, right?
If you're a young entrepreneur, hopefully you're not in college, you know.
I mean, yeah, but I wanted to ask you, man. So, how did you end up getting your first official client?
Great question. So another inspiring moment for me was when I was like in 7th grade. My biggest dream would be to like waking up when I turned 16 and have a nice new truck on the driveway. And I started like talking to my dad, like, hey, am I going to get like a new truck? He's like, I'm not paying for your car. He's like, you think you're just going to get it? Like, he was like repulsed by how entitled I was.
Why would you even ask that?
Yeah. And of course, it's like, what are you thinking? And so he was like, I'll tell you what, you can go get a job. And I was like, what? Like, where would I? He's like, McDonald's? You could go wash someone's car. You could go mow their lawn. And I was like, whoa, what'd you say? He's like, yeah, like go mow somebody's lawn. I'm like, you can do that? And then I was just out the next day.
Really?
I stole my dad's mower, his push mower, his weed eater, his little blower, and just started mowing my neighbor's yard and just knocking and asking, hey, can I mow your yard? Hey, can I mow your yard? For like $20, like dirt cheap.
Oh, $20?
Oh, yeah. I think I did like 4 hours of work on my first yard for like $20.
Really?
But that's what it takes. I mean, like, I didn't know how to value myself or value my time.
And you were what, 16 at the time, right?
15.
15?
Yeah.
And I'm sure like, oh yeah, you know, let's give Paxson's son a try, you know.
Oh
And then
yeah,
did you start going weekly? Like on
for
a,
each visit.
yeah, or like
Yeah.
weekly or a monthly
I
basis?
figured that I needed to set up a schedule to actually have like a um, reoccurring income.
Yeah.
And so I set up a bi-weekly schedule back in the day to do their yards, and we grew to like 30 yards my first year, to 100 our second year, and then that's when I went into more like project-based work. People started asking for us to replace their plants and do flower beds and stonework and hardscaping, and I was like, man, there's a lot of money in this world. And I was
Oh
like,
yeah.
you know, I was all excited about making $1,000 a week when I did mowing, and like now we can hit weeks where we do 60 or 70,000 in project work. So it's just a totally different world.
Yeah. I want to touch on that a little. I've met a few people who are like, oh yeah, this job pays really, really good. And it's a job that's paying 16, 17, 18 bucks an hour.
Right.
And then they would go tell their family members, hey, I just got a job that's paying $17
That's
an
pretty
hour.
good.
I'm like, oh man, that's good. You know, that's more than most people.
Right.
Right. But once you think about it and how much money there is in the world,
Right.
and you're like, man, I'm making 17 bucks an hour, when in reality I could be doing something else that's making me a whole lot more money.
Right.
And it's, oh my gosh, it's crazy because I've seen it happen so many times.
And so many people just settle. Like they're like, oh, well, I'm going to work at this minimum job or minimum wage job for the rest of my life. You know, being a waiter.
Hey, bro, I was a waiter. Come on now.
Not that being a waiter is bad, but like for the rest of your life, that would be horrible.
No, yeah.
You can't live off of that money, you know,
Yeah,
especially with where
we're all going economy-wise.
Yeah.
But okay, when you started your business, did you make a lot of mistakes?
Oh my gosh, that's all I did.
What's the biggest mistake you made whenever you first began?
Oh man, when I was first beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good question. I blew up one of my mowers.
How's that happen?
When you neglect maintenance on machinery like I did, because I was like, oh, like it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. Like I just neglected, and then a piston, like because you know it's a combustion engine, it uses a piston to blow up gas. Blew out of the side of the engine, and there was a hole in like the engine block.
Really?
Because I didn't change the oil. The oil seized up, and then it boom and blew through the side of it.
You know, I'm gonna apply that to my car because I got a Honda. And so sometimes I'm like, man, it's good. But every time I go back to Houston, my people are always like, hey, check your oil. I'm like, it's good. It's at 50%, you know. Ain't nothing gonna happen.
Yeah.
And so you only had one piece of material or equipment at that time, and then you blew it out? Or
it was I upgraded to like a 0-turn mower to, you know, be more efficient. And it just, I didn't know what I was doing. Didn't listen to the people around me. Listen to the wisdom around you. You know, that's a good word because I didn't do it.
No, I mean,
my parents were like, you ever change the oil on that machine? I was like, it's fine. Like,
it's fine.
Like
it's
as if
running.
I knew better than my parents, you know.
And if it stops, then I'll just put more oil in there, right? Wouldn't that be the logical thing to do?
The funny thing, I bought a new mower at Home Depot thinking that I could return it after I used it. And I know this is so stupid. I was like, I'll use it for the day, I'll return it, and then I'll get all my money back, and then I can just have this mower fixed. Because I still had to mow the yards.
Yeah.
And then I used it, and I brought it back, and they were like, you can't return this. Like, it's an engine. You used it. And I was like, oh, crap. And so then I ended up with 2 mowers. So actually, it was a good thing. But again, you learn.
You learn as you go.
Yeah.
And so what would you say to young entrepreneurs out there or young people who want to become entrepreneurs, and they're like, oh no, I'm just trying to make sure everything's perfect, right? Because from my experience,
oh my gosh,
I was like, oh, I try to make sure everything's perfect.
Yeah.
But the wiser I've gotten through time, through listening to other people, they're like, bro, just do whatever you got to do. Right. Just do it, and nothing's ever gonna be perfect.
Yeah.
Right. So what would you say to those young entrepreneurs?
Oh my gosh, dude, that is just, you're preaching to the choir. There are so many people, and I don't mean this in like a derogatory way. There are so many people that are so afraid of what would happen if they failed. And every single successful person failed to get where they are. Thomas Edison with his light bulb. How many times did he fail before he got a successful light bulb? And he had a team of people obviously working for him.
Really?
He wasn't
I thought it was
individually lighting each one. But still, his team failed, and he was like, guys, we got to keep going. We got to keep doing this. And a lot of people are really afraid to take that leap of
Yeah.
like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. Because if you don't do that, then
Mhm.
you never can learn the things along the way, and you can never really experience paving your own path. You're just going to hop on the train with someone else that's been making the mistakes earlier.
Mm.
And I want to be a trailblazer. Like, I want to be a leader. I want
Mhm.
to own my own business. I would prefer not to be a conformist for someone else that's working their butt off, and then I just am happy with like an hourly wage. Like, I want to take ownership and create culture and change the world with my business.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to do that when you join or you work for somebody.
Mhm.
But seriously, if they have a dream or there's something that they're passionate about or an idea that they're like, man, this would solve someone's issue,
Yeah.
go do it. And if you fail, then you learn something, and then that's valuable right there.
Exactly.
But too many people are too afraid to take the leap.
What would you recommend to be the first step? Is just to get started, take action?
I mean, if you don't have any plans and you're like, I'm gonna go start a business, like, you have to have an idea of what you're gonna sell or your service that you're gonna provide. I would suggest, if you have an idea as a business, the first thing I would do is get a whiteboard or a piece of paper and then write out like why you want to start it, what you want to start, what you're going to do, the purposes behind it. Because if you don't understand the purpose behind it, you're not going to be motivated enough to pursue it with excellence and a lot of energy. You're just going to get burned out and not pursue your dream. But if you're like, you're 5 years old and you're like, man, I want to be a barber, and you're still like, you're 20 and you're like, I still would love to cut hair and like start a business. Like, you got to pursue that passion. You can't just be like, well, I guess I'm going to go work a desk job. Like, I think God has given us all like things we're passionate about that we really enjoy doing, that we're designed to do.
Yeah.
And when you don't pursue it, you're just you're not wasting those skills, but you're not being the best you could be.
What would you say to someone who doesn't they want to start a business one day, but they don't know what the heck they want to do? They don't know if they want to be service based or just in another type of industry
It's a
related to
great
this.
question. And this is where kiddos get in trouble when they go to college, because they go to college to find out what they want to do, and they're paying for classes for a specific career.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make any sense. It's harder to go back to college once you don't go at all. And it's even harder to not go once you've left. But I would suggest that in high school, in college, like, if you're like, I don't even know what I want to do, if it's like a career, go find the top three things that you would like love to do, that you're like, oh, that'd be awesome. Make one of them something that you would happily do and not get paid for, like something for free. Mine would be DJing. Like, I DJ on the side and I love it. And if I could make a career out of that, I would.
Really?
Different subject. But find something that you would like love doing and you wouldn't get paid for, like if money was not an object. And then find two other things that you're like, that's a really interesting thing, or I have a lot of passion for said industry. And work or get to know people that work in those areas, so you can understand, what will my job look like? Am I actually going to love this, or am I not? Because your career could possibly be the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Do you want to spend your life at a desk doing numbers? For me, not so much.
Yeah.
And so I think the mistake is made when people go to college and they're like, all right, I'm going to figure it out while they're paying to learn a specific career, versus going out in the world, trying different things, and then being like, okay, I really want to be a physical therapist. Okay, I'm going to go to college and I'm going to grind out school. I'm not going to waste my time, and I'm going to be a physical therapist because I shadowed a physical therapist. I learned it and I loved it, and I want to do that.
Yeah.
Versus, I'm going to go to college to be a physical therapist. They get out with their degree of kinesiology or whatever else, and then they're in that career and they're like, I hate my job.
They're like, oh my gosh, what the heck did I get
They
myself
just
into?
spent $80,000 for a piece of paper that they're not going to use, and they may get hired somewhere else and use their degree for a different job, but they spent all that energy learning about something that they can't apply. And I think where young entrepreneurs win is if they don't go to college. Like, I've been growing a business while other people are in school learning about the career they're going to be, while I've been building the career that I want to be in. And it gets me ahead.
What do you think about people who go to college and get a business degree? They're like, oh no, I want to run a business, but I'm going to go to business. I'm going to get a degree about business first. before you
Dude.
answer, the reason I ask, other day I went to a networking event,
Cool.
right? And then I rarely see people my age, our age, right? And it's
Right.
mostly older folks.
100%.
And then I see these younger kids. I'm like, oh snap! And so I was gonna go talk to them, but they're all up in a corner together. I'm like, okay, I don't know if they're like a sales team of a particular company.
Yeah.
And I asked this lady, hey, who are all these young kids? You know, it's rare I see young kids over here. They're like, oh, they're part of the Texas A&M entrepreneurship program. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And so what I would think, if you're a part of an entrepreneurship program and you're at a networking event,
right,
is to go and network with other entrepreneurs. But from what I saw what these kids were doing were just, hey, because there was Gringos food. And so I mean, it was really good. But they went and got some of the food and sat in their little corner the entire time. And then I was like, what? I was like, if I was there, I would be up there speaking with everybody.
Right.
And so what do you think about people who go to college for entrepreneurship or a business degree? They're like, yeah, I'm going to do this soon, but I want to get a degree or get in this program about it first.
Dude, I think if you want to be successful, there's no time to play games. Like, it's a game of survival. There's someone out there working harder than you, like in your sleep, like working circles around you. And like, that is so motivating for me because there's guys that are way more successful than me, work way harder. But then there's also people who like to just sit and be comfortable of like, all right, let me go to college, let me figure it out, and then I'll work really hard when I own my own business one day. But dude, it takes rigorous work. It takes extreme persistence to carry all that stress of being a business owner and working on those 7 jobs you talked about earlier. Like, it's a big deal. Like, you're
100%.
carrying the weight of all those members of your team. You're carrying the weight of your reputation on the line.
Yep.
How can I glorify God and be honest in my business? That's also really difficult to manage. But back to your question, to be more specific, I think it's great if you want to learn more about business and the ideas of business. But when it comes to learning how to operate your own business, a lot of those professors haven't done it. And they're teaching you out of a textbook that shows ideas and theories in the economy. Like, I want to know, like, give me a step-by-step of like what it looks like to own a business and scale.
Yeah.
I don't need to learn about the theories of the economy. Like, those are great if you want to be like in a lab, like doing stocks all day. That's great.
Yeah.
But like, if you want to own your own business, you just got to go out there and do it. You learn so much faster than if you did in college.
Yeah, because if you're a professor teaching business, I would think you would already be running this multi-million-dollar business.
And sometimes they have. They
Really?
have sometimes.
Really,
But
haven't
I
met
think
any.
more than less haven't owned their own business. And so
I would think more of like, hey, if I am a big-time business owner, I'll probably have like a little seminar every now and then where I go and teach these kids. But I'm like, if you're like a multi-million-dollar earner, why are you a professor? Or I don't know. I seen a 50 Cent talk about this on his book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. And so I was like, oh, dang, I never thought about it in that way. Right. But yeah, I feel like if you're a young entrepreneur, you just got to go get more experiences everywhere. Like for me, on the industry that I'm in,
right,
the insurance industry, the life insurance industry, I didn't know I was going to get into this industry. Obviously, when I was younger, I liked finance, but I didn't know finance was going to move me into life insurance.
Right.
And the only reason I got started was because I took a chance. Someone asked me, hey, are you interested in this? I'm like, okay, cool. Let me try it out.
Heck
right.
yeah.
If I don't like it, I don't like it. But then I ended up going there. Boom. I was like, I fell in love on the spot.
Yeah.
Right. And so I would say, just for more entrepreneurs, just go try shit out instead of being on their phone the entire day. Right. TikTok, Instagram.
It kills you.
Yeah. I've seen people have this bad habit where they're walking in the restroom, they're peeing, scroll while they're peeing, or while they're moving, or like doing actions like cooking or drinking from your water. It's like natural stuff you shouldn't be having your phone. These people are scrolling on TikTok. They got us in a bubble.
I have my mom restrict my Instagram time. That sounds so silly, but because it's so distracting and it removes so much focus from my business and the things I needed. Like you said, we have a lot of responsibility. Like, I got to take care of people. I got like 25 people to feed, because they're feeding their families and all the guys on my team. And if I take a second to just watch and entertain myself and be comfortable and like waste time away,
Mhm.
I'm losing. Like there's someone else who doesn't even have Instagram, you know?
Yeah.
And so because I'm not self-disciplined enough, I have to have others help me to keep me accountable to stay off of it. Because social media is designed
Yeah.
to take your time.
No, yeah. I think I saw that they spend millions of dollars on getting the best people to work on this to keep you addicted and
Isn't that
addicted. And I
crazy?
know.
It's so evil.
I know. It's I know. But in a business move, I'm like, hey, it's kind of smart. But it is evil.
In business, it's like, oh yeah, you're getting views, you're getting like watch time.
I'm like, hey, that's smart.
There's so much
That's a
money in
smart way to
social
get
media.
addicted. But yeah, it's very evil. So I wanted to ask you, what drives you right now, as specifically at this point in your business?
Good question. Freedom.
Freedom?
Yeah.
Financial freedom, or what type of freedom?
Freedom in a very general manner. I think
Okay.
financially, like I don't want to have to stress and like fumble for money to like pay bills. You know, it would be really cool to have wealth built for me and my family, to not only be able to like provide and for my wife and kiddos one day, but also like to bless others out of that wealth and success. Um, but mostly like freedom with time. Like if I can be a father that's present emotionally and spiritually, like I'm winning. If I'm a father who makes a ton of money and isn't there for my family and like isn't intentional with my kids, like
Yeah.
that's just a waste of the privilege it is to be a parent, you know? Um, and so that's why I work so hard is like I think about my future family. I think about the people that we're impacting across the world, you know, and it's just so motivating for me to work hard because I know what's to come. And so I look at the light at the end of the tunnel and I'm like, okay, these are the things that I must do to scale this business. Let me focus on the light at the end of the tunnel
Yeah.
to motivate me to get over these hurdles, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that same way of like planning, what am I going to do for my business, or like what should I do? You know, like have that light at the end of the tunnel of like where do I want to be, and how can this business fund or like fuel this race to get to said destination.
Yeah.
And in the same way with freedom, time, but also like travel. I just would love to just travel the world. You can only do that if you have money and you are not tied down to a job. And
Yeah.
if I could do that the entire year, that'd be so cool. It's not realistic, but that's the dream. Like, have passive income and sell businesses and be able to travel and be intentional with my family. So,
Since your final goal is freedom in general, what would you say right now is the hardest part of growing and scaling your business?
not having freedom, you have to let go of freedom now to experience the fruit later. It's the same way like my dad raised me to always say work before play. Like you don't want to play video games all morning and then go do your chores. Like as a kid, that's what I would do. And he'd be like, no, like do the hard stuff first so you can enjoy doing your video games after. And then you already did the work. Because if you play video games, you're just going to want to keep playing. And then it's like, oh, I should probably do this. I'll do it tomorrow, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why so many people procrastinate, is because they don't do the hard work up front. And in the same way, the struggle for business owners is like, it takes like 5 to 10, roughly, depending on who you hire and who you can have on your team, 5 to 10 years of like rigorous dedication to your business to build something that can withstand you not being there. Like if I left today, I have people in place that I've delegated responsibility to that can do great jobs, but I still am very hands-on on each of our crews and our culture and who is hired and who's getting fired and all those things. And so it's going to take 5 to 10 years of my time, of my freedom away to get a lifetime of freedom once we build this thing.
An extra 70, 80 years.
Yeah, once we build this thing to, 8 or 9 figures, depending on what that looks like. But
And you would plan on selling the company by then?
it depends. If I have enough income coming in every year to where it makes sense for me to not sell it, then I wouldn't. But if I have a really nice price point and that amount allows me to buy other businesses or, provides me with enough wealth to
Mhm.
retire, that would be great. But it's a matter of just like looking at the numbers of
Mhm.
like, which one is actually better. Is it me, still owning said company and getting paid dividends and getting paid income,
Yeah.
or is it me just taking a big old cash like evaluation from the business?
So you mentioned right now,
That's a tricky one.
you mentioned retiring one day. Would you say you would? So I mean, we're still young, but right.
Right.
Let's say, would you ever retire,
No.
or you wouldn't like? Because this is how I feel about business. I mean, I'm still young, but I feel like I won't ever retire.
Never.
I'll still have something to do regarding to business.
Right.
Maybe mentoring someone, consulting.
100%.
But do you see yourself retiring? 'Cause
Never.
what I see the definition of retiring is like, hey, we're out in the beach, we're out in a cruise, this and this and that.
Yeah, no.
Never.
No, never. We're not on this earth to just be comfortable and be lazy.
Uh-huh.
And laziness, I believe, is weakness. And like,
Mm.
I try to eradicate that from my lifestyle as much as possible because it's just so promoted. And it's just like just take a you day. Like
Oh
just do what's best for you. And like people will like sit there and then they'll take an entire day to like rest and sleep and go to the movies and just like waste time. Like God has given us this much time on earth. Like how are you going to use it?
Yeah.
Like he's like gifted it to you and you're just like spitting on that gift because you're like, I'm going to sleep all day. Like really? Like you were given a breath of life and you're going to use it to just be lazy and comfortable. Rest is important, and I want to hit on that for sure because you do need rest. You'll experience burnout like crazy if you don't.
Yeah.
But having marks of rest where you're spending time with the Lord, spending time just being quiet and still, if that's taking a walk or a bike ride or fitness, whatever that looks like, getting rest is very important. But being lazy and just sitting in your comfortable chair all day it's a different thing entirely. What was your question before that?
I had asked, dang. I don't remember. But it's because I got so focused on what you were saying. I'm like, oh man, that was some good stuff. But I completely forgot.
I just went on a tangent with the laziness thing.
Yeah. I mean, but I guess this is what happens whenever you first start a podcast, right? One of the first few mistakes right here. Now for the next one, I'll make sure to note because this wasn't on my notes. This was just more something.
Oh yeah. I think being a great question asker means you're building off of the questions you've already asked, asking probing questions, and then just going deeper with different responses.
Well, yeah,
you've done a great job with that.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. So, before we end things off, I did want to ask you, where do you see yourself and your business in the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, I love that question so much because I have a dream board, and I think this is really important for anybody, no matter if you're
like a vision board.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Vision board. And it was like 2025. This is what I'm going to have. This is where the business will be. And it was like, we're going to be a 7-figure business. Okay. We're going to be making X amount of dollars every month. We're going to have this many trucks, this much, kind of equipment, various things like that, all on a list. And it's done. It's completed. Like it's 2025 and we're like exceeding our monthly, what we wanted to be hitting, Yeah. And that is just really cool to know that God is allowing us to do that. And at the same time, I would encourage anybody that is, even if you're working for somebody, like have a vision board for your life. It just adds purpose and motivates you in your day-to-day life. But our vision board for the next 3 or 5 years is to continue growing and scaling to 8 figures. So we want to be a $10 million company and service all of Cold Station, to buy out other companies, and then eventually franchise out. And not out of town, but we want to just consume the home service industry with the same culture of like, we're here to have like an uplifting and encouraging environment that impacts the community and the world. And we're going to start that obviously through higher purpose landscaping, but then there'll be higher purpose AC and higher purpose plumbing, higher purpose roofing. And like, we'll have, all of the trades covered, and then we'll create that same culture across the board for those specialists that we hire or buy out in said trade. So we could easily be a 9-figure business.
Do you feel like you're working harder
10
than
or 20 years?
you feel like you're working harder than most people in your industry?
It's a great question. No.
No.
I think in our town, absolutely. It's easy to be big in Cultivating because there's not as much. There's not
literally
as many hustlers. I mean that in like the nicest way.
Yeah.
Like if you go to Austin or Dallas, like there are 40, 20-year-olds that are millionaires.
Yeah.
In Cultivating, it's a little smaller just because we're a smaller community. There's not as much opportunity.
They say there's a lot of money here, but it's all old money.
Right. And I believe our guys are the most motivated.
Okay.
And some of the hardest workers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not. I have no place to say that I specifically work harder than another business owner in my industry.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. I don't know if they're staying up all night and doing quotes and designs till 1 or 2 a.m. every night. I don't know if those guys are doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that I'm going to give it my all, and that's what I can do. I can control what I can control, and the rest I'll leave to God. He'll take it where he wants it to go. He'll open doors and he'll close them, and I'll just walk through them, or I'll walk into one and then pivot.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Ooh. And so what would you say for someone who's trying to start a landscaping business? They're like, man, they started the exact same way as you. Dude. Like, hey, you could get paid for mowing someone's lawn.
Heck,
and then they're like, what? And so they want to start a landscaping business. Or maybe they already have one right now.
Right.
They just don't know what to do. What steps would you tell them to do to move forward?
The first thing is just go do it. Like, oh my gosh. The biggest thing is going and doing it. Like, for me,
that hit a toll. You felt that.
I didn't want to go out and knock on that client's door, but I felt like I needed to because I was like, oh, I can go make $50 or $20. And I knew if I could convince that client to do this service that I could get some cash money. And I would be helping them out. Like I'm helping them with the service, and then they're giving me, exchange for my time and my hard work, they're giving me money. And I'm like, man, what a win-win. I don't lose anything by being rejected. I can learn from it. So starting off in door-to-door sales was like the biggest thing in like making me a great salesman, because I would get rejected hundreds and hundreds of times and learn from every single interaction. I could be like, man, I hesitated when I said that, or I didn't maintain eye contact, or I didn't handle those objections at all. People will be like, oh, well, my husband's not home. Like, as a salesman, your job is to navigate around those objections and help them see the need for your service. And so I learned that, and I'm still learning. I'm not great by any means, but like still learning what it means like to become a great salesman. That's huge when you're a business owner. And if you aren't a great salesman or great with convincing and negotiating, then hire someone that is, so you can grow said business. Specifically with landscaping, though, to focus in on that question. Go mow a yard. Borrow someone's mower or rent it from them, and then get $50 for a yard. And then after you save your money, buy your own mower, buy your own equipment. And then you just go from there. You work more, and you have people on a set schedule, and you have great communication with your clients, and will do excellent work. Your work will speak for itself, and clients will be happy to be like, hey, look at this guy. He did so good. And then they're going to hire you. And word of mouth is the best marketing campaign you could ever have.
100%.
It's way better than Google. It's way better than Instagram. Like people's words of like, especially older people,
they're like this kid.
Her friend Janice, she's like, Janice, my landscaper's the best in town. And she's like, no way. And she calls him right there, and she's like, hey, you're hired. Because I love my friend and I believe what she's saying. Versus like Google, it's like, oh, this company has five-star reviews. That's great, but like I don't know any of them. So words of mouth will help you grow like wildfire. And just start mowing, and then research.
Just start mowing. Simple as that.
Research people that are. This is a huge thing for me that I do every single day. Research people that are where you want to be, so you can see how to get there. Like, for instance, if you wanted to do landscaping, there are like 10 fantastic YouTubers, and there's a million others that are like, hey, here's what I did. Here's the mistakes I made. Here's how to invest in your business, or how to scale said business, or how to work with clients, how to close deals, like whatever aspect you're weak in, learn a lot how to get really good at it. And that'll change everything. Because if you can get educated and continue to educate yourself and never stop learning, you'll be far better than anyone else, because a lot of men just have egos. They'll be successful, they
gosh,
sell a
yeah.
business, and they'll be like, well,
That's it.
I've made it.
Yeah.
I'm done. I've learned it all, you know, and that's, you will learn until the day you die, you know. And like, I'm constantly getting humbled because I'll think I know something and I'm like, oh, nope, no, I don't, you know. And so stay humble. You always want to be learning, and just be eager to learn more and become the best you can be in whatever your career industry is.
I don't know if you're like this, but I'm addicted to learning, right?
Oh, no.
So whenever I read
It's
a
so
new book or
fascinating,
something,
yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, this is so good. And then it's like you can't stop reading about it, right? And it's like, I don't know how people don't fall in love with learning or educating themselves in something that they love or something they want to expand into. They're like, oh my gosh, it's like there's so many possibilities out there.
Yeah.
It's actually insane. But I respect that you started in door to door, because that is the toughest place to be in.
But it's the best.
It's
If you want to get good at sales, it's the best.
Uh-huh.
Like, you can go pay for a course, and that's great. But
Yeah.
like, if you want to be excellent, go door to door all day long.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the greats like learn.
And I respect that, because when I first started, I did door to door for one day.
Oh, it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. And I almost started crying when I went up to that door,
Yeah,
because
bro.
I was shivering. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah.
It's just me. And it was so bad. And so I respect everyone that does door to door. And most people that do door to door, that end up getting out of door to door, they become like top salesmen out there.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. You gotta be there mentally to accomplish door.
You have to be resilient. Like, you're gonna get rejected 10 to 1 all day long. Like, it's just over the top rejection. But just brush it off and be like, okay, why did they reject me? What could I have done? Being self-critical is going to help you be the best you can be. And you don't want to be overly critical. Like, you want to be aware of your mistakes and your failures and flaws, because no one is perfect. But it's also really important to be realistic and be like, man, I should not have said that to one of my employees. That really hurt him. And then going and apologizing and then learning from that, versus like, man, it's fine, whatever, just leave it alone, and then letting that build, and then y'all have a bad relationship or whatever else, you know.
Small things like that.
Yeah. And just really being hyper aware of what you're saying and doing, and that, you know, starting the small things, and it'll end up growing and building.
Well, thank you, Paxson, for being the first official guest on my podcast.
Dude.
Where would you like my little to no viewers to follow you? Like, do you want them to follow you on Instagram, or how can they get in contact with you?
The best place to reach me at would be Instagram. You can just look Paxson Berkey up, or HPLandscaping, and see our business and what we're doing.
Yeah, I'll make sure to add it in the link in bio. Yes, sir. Cool. Well, thank you very much, Paxson.
Dude,
I appreciate it, man.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Getting me hype.